Coach, the topic of recruiting has come up a lot in the last couple of days from a few angles. Is a different approach needed for the level of consistency?
Well, we're in the season right now. We'll do recruiting after the season, and when it gets this recruiting time, we can talk about recruiting.
Sounds good.
Okay. Next question.
We got a lot of Humpty Dumptys this week, don't we? A lot of teams that have done fell and can't be put back together again. Another week of the 2021 college football season is in the books, and another amazing list of losers this past weekend in college football. Some good games, some upsets, some crazy endings, some blowouts. Right, Florida man? But you know what time it is. It's time for the Your Season is Over video, where we take a look at this week's list of losers, laugh at them, point and laugh at them. I'll give you some teams that won and looked good, some teams that won and looked bad. I'll tell you who the best teams are. This week I've got the best teams segment at the end of the show, or end of this video. I've got it split into like 3 tiers. You know how you see these memes, these tiers memes. So I've got my best teams this week split into a couple of different tiers. So we'll do that at the end. And an updated Heisman list. And in my opinion, the first time this year where I believe there should be a clear-cut number 1 on everyone's Heisman list. We'll get to all that and more in this edition of Your Season is Over. But where do we want to start here? So many choices. I guess we'll start on the top so I don't have to knock all these things over. Can we start here? Can we start here with Nebraska? Where do I want to put? I guess I'll put them here. I'll put them there for now. Put them right back up here. Scott Frost needs to be fired yesterday. This is unacceptable. Really, if you look at Scott Frost's record, the last 3 seasons, this season and the previous 2, there's not very many schools in America, in my opinion, that should accept that kind of record over a 3-year period. Not very many at all. You're talking about Vanderbilt, Kansas, and Arizona level of poverty going on at Nebraska. At Nebraska. This is absolutely pitiful. Scott Frost is evidently in way, way, way over his head at Nebraska. And I pointed this out before when talking about Nebraska and Scott Frost. It's not just that they're having bad seasons. It's that there's no improvement at all. He took over a team that was winning 3 or 4 games a year. And now, 3 years in, he's winning 3 or 4 games a year. It's completely unacceptable. This is going to be the 3rd year in a row Scott Frost has not made a bowl game. He's never made a bowl game. He's yet to make a bowl game with Nebraska. And I don't understand how you justify that any longer. And the bad news gets even worse. They lost 28-23 to Purdue. How do you lose to Purdue in year 3 at Nebraska? Unacceptable. This is right up there with the Illinois loss back in week 0. Nebraska now sits at 3-6. 3-6 on the season. 9 games in, 3 games remaining. Well, they can still make a bowl game. Please stop. Their next 3 games: Ohio State, at Wisconsin, and then Iowa. They're losing all 3 of those. Scott Frost in Nebraska is going 3-9, 3 years into the Scott Frost experiment. And at this point, it's safe to go ahead and declare it a failed experiment. 3-9, they're going to go. 1 conference win they'll have this year. 1. They're going to finish 1-8 in conference play, and they're going to finish 3-9 overall. I don't see how there's anybody alive, a Nebraska fan, an analyst, a commentator, some idiot on YouTube yelling into his phone. I don't see how there's anyone on planet Earth that can make a single justification for Scott Frost keeping his job 1 day further. Not one. This is mind-boggling how bad Scott Frost and Nebraska are 3 years in. Totally unacceptable. Nebraska's season has been over. Scott Frost, your tenure as head coach at Nebraska needs to be over. Piss poor, sir. Piss poor. Speaking of piss poor, what is this? In fact, I'm leaving it like this from now on. I'm leaving it like this from now on. Here. You're going right back up here where you came from, but it's horns down the rest of the way. It's horns down the rest of the way. Would you be surprised if I told you that Texas lost this past weekend? No one would be surprised. You lost 31-24 to Baylor. Well, you say, well, Baylor's a decent team. Yeah, but you're supposed to be decent. 31-24, you lost to Baylor. Would anyone be surprised if I told you that Texas was winning this game after the first quarter? No one would be surprised. Nobody. Would anyone tell you, would you be surprised if I told you Texas was winning this game at halftime? You shouldn't be surprised. They're winning every game at halftime. Would you be surprised if I told you that Texas was winning this game in the fourth quarter? You shouldn't be surprised. Texas has been winning almost every game they've played this year in the fourth quarter. It's one thing to have a collapse. It's one thing. Look, I'm a Georgia fan. I know all about having leads at halftime and then blowing it. The difference is Georgia blows it to Alabama in years where they're the best team on planet Earth. You're doing this against Oklahoma State and Baylor. It's unacceptable. Texas has been outscored in the fourth quarter of games this season. Are you ready for this? In the fourth quarter of games this year, the Texas Shorthorn is being outscored 55-10. 10. Not averaging 10 points in the fourth quarter. No. They've scored a grand total of 10 points in the fourth quarter. Now, they're under a brand new head coach, Sarkisian there. So I'm not going to get on here with the fire Steve Sarkisian routine. I don't believe in firing a head coach in his first year for anything that he does on the field. If you fire somebody in their first year, it better be some kind of egregious off-the-field issue, like Hugh Freeze running around with prostitutes and buying players, stuff like that. So I'm not going to get on here with that, but I know Texas fans can't be happy with what they're seeing. What is the problem? What is the problem? I mean, it started with the Oklahoma game. You guys had them whipped. And you say, well, rivalry games. See, weird things happen in rivalry games. Yeah, Texas had the big lead early, up 14-0. A minute into the game, yeah, they had the big lead in the halftime. Yeah, but it's a rivalry game. Weird things happen. Oklahoma come back and win the game. Give Oklahoma their credit. Okay, fine. Then it's the same thing the next week. Oklahoma State. Here you go again. Same thing. Baylor. There's other games you've done this in. This is hard to understand. I don't know that I've ever seen a team have this many second half collapses in the same season. Watching Texas games, it's the same game every week for Texas. It's the same game every week. You want to make money betting on Texas this year? Bet Texas in the first half and bet against Texas in the second half. Guaranteed winner. You'd be undefeated. You'd have a perfect record. If you bet Texas in the first half of every game, you're good to go. You bet Texas in the second half, not so much. Not so much. Texas is horrible this year. They're horrible. I don't understand. When you see a team, well, I'll just ask y'all. What do you attribute that to when you see a team collapse in the second half and the fourth quarter, week after week after week after week after week? To me, that's got to be coaching. It's obviously not a talent or skill deficiency versus the teams you're playing, because you're able to not only compete, but beat most teams you play in the first half and even into the third quarter. Something's happened at the end of games, and to me, it's almost got to be some sort of coaching issue going on. I don't know if the coaches are getting too tight in the second half of games. I don't know if they're getting too conservative. I don't know if the conditioning program wasn't what it needed to be in the offseason. So now the players are wearing out by the time the third and fourth quarter rolls around. I don't know if Texas needs to be subbing players in and out more often early in the game to save them. I don't know. I'm asking Texas fans, what do you attribute this to? I think it's got to be coaching, because any of those scenarios is the coach's responsibility. Subbing players in and out, that's up to the coaches. Off-season conditioning, that's up to the coaches. Getting too conservative at the end of games, that would be the coaches. So it's definitely coaching, but what exactly is it that's causing Texas to fall off a cliff in the second half and the fourth quarter of all these games? Inquiring minds want to know. And South Carolina fans want to know too. They don't have inquiring minds. They don't even have minds. Who's next? Oh, man. Why? I've always liked Gary Patterson. Do I think Gary Patterson has ever been an elite, like one of the top 10 coaches in all of college football or anything like that? No. But I've always liked Gary Patterson. I don't know if it's my affinity for defense. And for a long time, TCU and Gary Patterson were the only team in the Big 12 that even pretended to care or try on defense. I can't really pinpoint it. He's been there a long, long time. He's guided them through 2 or 3 different conferences. He's guided them out of the old Group of 5 world into the Power 5 world with joining the Big 12 and all that. He's got multiple top 10 finishes. And I know we're in a world of what have you done for me lately? I get that. And I'm not against firing Gary Patterson if TCU felt like that's what they needed to do. It just seems like a guy that's been there that long. Maybe you let him stay to the end of the season. And please don't get into comments with he stepped down and he resigned. Just don't. That never happens. That never happens. People are told to leave. Okay? If your boss comes in and tells you to leave and you say, I quit, well, you got fired. The fact you said I quit on your way out the door doesn't change that. So I don't get in here with that. He was forced out. And I don't know. It just kind of rubs me the wrong way the way this went down. It's not like TCU is some huge destination job. So I don't know what benefit they get from firing him now. They're not getting in the front of the line when it comes to coaching searches. You've already got LSU and Southern Cal out looking for coaches. There's not a coach on planet Earth who's going to tell LSU or Southern Cal, no, let me go get the TCU job. So I don't understand firing him now. I don't. I really don't. We'll see how it works out the rest of the year, but I have a feeling it's going to work out like it normally does when you fire a coach in the middle of the year, which is not very good. Of course, it didn't work out good this past weekend when you had him either, because you lost 31-12 to Kansas State. No way. I hope I wrote that down wrong. How's Zach Evans doing? Remember this saga of Zach Evans, that running back recruit from a couple of years ago that committed and decommitted to 19 different schools, then actually signed with Georgia. But then he got in a bunch of trouble at his high school with his football coach at the end of the year. And got suspended from his high school team, wasn't able to play in the playoffs or in the state title game and all that. So Georgia let him out of his commitment. So he reopened up his recruitment and anyway, ended up at TCU. How's that working out? If someone can let me know in the comments down below, I would really appreciate it. Also, in addition to that as well. I'm conflicted on this one. I hate Georgia Tech. No doubt about that. How about here? Can we put them there? ACC show. I hate Georgia Tech. There's no doubt about that. No doubt about that. You know what else I hate? Being wrong. And it appears in the case of Georgia Tech, I might have been wrong. They lost 26-17 to Virginia Tech this past weekend. What do I mean about being wrong? It's not that I thought Jeff Collins was about to get in Georgia's way. I mean, it's just way too far of a gap there. But I did think Jeff Collins was going to elevate Georgia Tech's program to serious relevancy within the ACC. He had the highest recruiting class Georgia Tech's ever had a couple of years ago. I liked their quarterback last year, although he, way too many turnovers. And I said that every time I talked. I said, I like him. He's exciting. He can make some plays. Way too many turnovers. So I get all that. I like Jahmyr Gibbs running back. I thought their defense would be better this year. They've been absolutely horrible. Going all the way back to, was it week 1? They lost to Northern Illinois or something, a bad FCS team or whatever that was. Now you're getting boat raced by Virginia Tech, another team that's about to be looking for a head coach, in my opinion. Fuentes. How long is Virginia Tech going to stand around with their thumb up their butt watching Fuentes not do anything? I don't know, but this is about Georgia Tech, not Virginia Tech. I'm not saying Georgia Tech should fire Jeff Collins. I'm not saying that at all. But Georgia Tech is nowhere near right now where I thought they would be 2-3 years into the Jeff Collins deal. I know it got slowed down last year for COVID, but everybody got slowed down last year for COVID. So that's not really an excuse that any team should be using, in my opinion, as to why they're not meeting certain expectations or developing as a program or anything like that. Because everyone in college football, every team in college football last year had the same hurdles they had to jump over as it related to the pandemic and all that. So I'm not trying to hear that anymore. And never mind that, you had a full off season this year. Spring, summer, fall, you had it all. And this year has been an epic failure and a disappointment. The best part about Georgia Tech's season this year has been watching that Pep Boys manager, what calls himself Sea-Dog, Georgia Tech man who has his own YouTube channel. The best part about the season for Georgia Tech for me has been watching his meltdowns every single week and watching him take 2 losses every single week. He's one of these Georgia Tech fans that I guess he likes Georgia Tech. I'm not going to say he doesn't like Georgia Tech. But he hates Georgia more than he likes Georgia Tech. I mean, that's obvious when you watch him. He would rather Georgia lose in any given week than Georgia Tech win in any given week. That's how this guy is. He goes out and buys a hat for every single team that's playing Georgia. So last week he had his Florida hat on. So you toted 2 L's, Sea-Dog. Congratulations. 1, 2. Of course, you can't spell Mullen without 4 L's, but I guess you can't spell Sea-Dog without 2 per week. Because Georgia's, of course, undefeated. So you catch a loss there every week. Your Florida hat, Kentucky hat, Auburn hat, Vanderbilt hat, South Carolina hat. How's that Clemson hat doing? Here, breaking news. Pep Boys, man. Uncle Lou's Clemson hat better than your Clemson hat. But check out Sea-Dog, CDOGG, on YouTube if you want some quality breakdowns. By breakdowns, I don't mean like breaking down film. I mean like emotional breakdowns. As he slowly comes to the realization that Georgia Tech is absolute dumpster juice and runny doo-doo. Man, what are we going to do about Matt Corral? I still think Matt Corral is one of the best players in college football this year. No doubt about it. But I don't know if he's as high up on the Heisman list today as he was 2-3 weeks ago. I just don't know. Not a great performance this week against the Barn. Ole Miss loses to Auburn. Don't look now, Bammer. Don't look now, Gump. But of course, Auburn does control their own destiny in the SEC West. They still got to get through Texas A&M, and then of course Alabama in the Iron Bowl at the end of the season. But that game's played at the Barn. And Alabama hadn't won there since the iPhone 6. So we'll see how that goes. But yeah, Ole Miss, your season is over. I mean, look, watching Lane Kiffin go for it on fourth downs it was funny in the beginning. Now I almost feel sorry for Ole Miss fans. And, it's almost a valuable lesson to the rest of us college football fans, right? Because I have a feeling most of us are guilty of this. Don't we always want our team to go for it on 4th and 1? Don't we? I mean, I don't know if it's human nature. I don't know what it is. But how many times have you yelled at your TV when it's 4th and less than a yard and your coach sends out the field goal unit or the punting team? I've done it. Well, after watching Lane Kiffin at Ole Miss for the last couple of years, I'm perfectly happy now with the field goal or the punt on 4th down because it just doesn't work out for Ole Miss very often, does it? Lane Kiffin pays a guy to stand behind him with a book that's this damn thick. It's an analytics book. And that book is what tells Lane Kiffin what to do. It's like, remember when Butch Jones had his chart? He blamed everything on the chart. Well, the chart says this, the chart says that. We ran this play because the chart this and the chart that. Lane Kiffin... You don't need Lane Kiffin. Well, I guess you need Lane Kiffin for play calling. But for decision making, you don't even need Lane Kiffin. I think Lane Kiffin's salary should be cut in half. The analytics guy should be given that half of Lane Kiffin's salary. Because Lane Kiffin doesn't ever have to make any decisions outside of which play to run. He just looks in that book and it's, okay, this is the score. This is how much time is left. This is where we're at on the field. This is the down and distance. And the book tells you what to do, right, Lane? Well, it turns out that sometimes coaches and human beings are smarter than whatever's written down in that analytics book because watching Ole Miss go for it and not get it on 4th downs from their own 45-yard line and stuff like that over and over and over again is honestly, like I said, it was funny in the beginning. Now it's almost just sad because you know what's happening. Speaking of sad, well, this sure is sad here. This sure is sad here. Is Michigan going to go off the top 10 shelf? Michigan may go back on the top 10 shelf, but for now, we're going to put them here. By the way, my updated top 25 comes out today after this video. And then the call-in show, which is normally 10 o'clock on Tuesday nights, is going to be 7 o'clock tonight because we've got the playoff committee doing their rigmarole today at 7. So we're going to take calls during the first playoff rankings reveal. But Michigan loses to Michigan State. Of course, that's not really the point. The point is Michigan, and specifically Jim Harbaugh, lose again a big game on the road in particular. Jim Harbaugh is yet to beat a top 15 team on the road. I mean, and they could have won this game, and you can make an argument they should have won this game. Coaching hurt them in this game, in my opinion. Coaching is coach. Why is Michigan playing the quarterback hokey pokey? I don't understand. Now, McNamara, is that his name? He's not going to be winning any Heisman trophies, but he's serviceable for what Michigan needs. I don't know why you feel the need to bring the other guy in there. It's clear he wasn't ready for the moment. You give him the ball, he puts it on the ground. Michigan State jumps on it, go down there and score. I mean, you feel bad for Michigan fans to a certain degree, I guess, but you know what you're getting now with Jim Harbaugh, don't you? I mean, is it possible Michigan can turn this thing around? Yeah, it's possible. They lost to Michigan State. They still got to play Penn State, and I think that's at Penn State. Then they host Ohio State at the end of the year. Does it feel like Harbaugh has to beat Ohio State to keep his job? If Harbaugh finishes 10-2, right, with the loss, let's say they beat Penn State, and they finish 10-2 with losses to Michigan State and Ohio State, that's their two biggest rivals. And this has been the problem for Michigan a couple of different seasons in the past under Jim Harbaugh. Michigan's not elite every single year under Jim Harbaugh, but they've been pretty close to elite a couple of times. But every time they get there, they lose the two biggest games on their schedule, don't they? It just seems like it happens every time. Michigan is a good team. I believe that. I think Michigan is a good team. Probably a top 10 team, top 15 for sure. But they just keep losing these games. And eventually you become almost a victim of your own success, right? It's not like Jim Harbaugh is Scott Frost. I mean, he's not out here winning 3 and 4 games a year. He's winning 9, 10, and in some cases 11 games a year. But the problem is eventually you become a victim of your own success. It's a similar thing happened to Mark Richt. You know, Mark Richt won 2 SEC titles almost right away when he got the job at Georgia back in the early 2000s. He won it in 2002, his second year, and then won it in 2005. But then he never won another one. So the last 10 years of Mark Richt at Georgia. So basically 2006 to 2015, very similar to Jim Harbaugh's tenure at Michigan. And what happened to Mark Richt? He became a victim of his own success. He was averaging 10 wins a year. He's averaging 10 wins a year in the SEC. That's not bad. He was making upper tier bowl games, but not very many BCS games, but a few here and there. But he was losing critical games every single year, and he plateaued. And like Georgia, Michigan at some point is going to have to make a decision. Who do you want to be? Do you want to be a 9 or 10 win team that knows you're not the best team in the conference every year? Or do you want to roll the dice and go out there and get somebody else? And that's what it would be. It would be a roll of the dice. To get rid of Jim Harbaugh would absolutely be a roll of the dice. Anytime you get rid of a coach, it's a roll of the dice because you don't know whatever coach you hire. You don't know how that's going to work out. It's especially a gamble when it's easy to fire a Scott Frost. You sit him down and you say, bro, one conference win, you're 3-9 this year. You haven't made a bowl game since you've been here. Get out. That's easy. Guy winning 10, 11 games a year, finishing in the top 15, and you fire him. A lot harder to do. And the pressure is a lot higher, too, on making sure you pick the right replacement. I mean, you fire Jim Harbaugh, he's winning 10 games a year. You bring a guy in, starts going 8-4 every year, then what are you going to do? You know what I mean? So we'll see what they do. But I know the Michigan fans are tired of this same old. I don't blame you. But to be honest with you, my opinion, Ohio State's better than you. And it's probably, they're going to beat you at the end of the year, it looks like to me. We'll see. Who else wants to go on the list? Well, these people got loud. Thank God basketball season's starting up, right? Neckbeard man. Thank God basketball season is starting up for the Neckbeards. How do you lose to Mississippi State? I didn't know there was enough cowbell on planet Earth. What is this? Give me this. Give me this thing. I didn't know there was enough cowbell on planet Earth for you guys to find a way to lose to Bigfoot, Mike Leach, in Mississippi State. But you did. And not only did you lose to him, you weren't even competitive. 31-17. 31-17. Man. It's hard to bash on Kentucky because they're still overachieving on the season. They're still overachieving, right? Their second loss. They might lose one more, honestly, and then see what happens in a bowl game. Probably not going to make a New Year's Six bowl game now. You had a chance at a New Year's Six game, I think. You would have had to have gone 11-1 to get that. That's probably out the window now, especially if Georgia beats Alabama. Georgia beats Bama in the SEC title game. Bama's going to a New Year's Six bowl. And, you look around, maybe an Ole Miss, maybe a Texas A&M, somebody like that, an Auburn, somebody like that may get in over you for the other New Year's Six spot. We'll see. Still possible. But a disappointing loss on the road at Mississippi State. I know you still have Tennessee coming up in a couple of weeks. You got the rivalry game at the end of the year against Louisville. They're terrible. You should beat them, no problem. Tennessee, I don't know. I think you'll move the ball on Tennessee. But defensively, can you do enough to slow them down? Hendon Ho trying to put points up. Watch the Georgia-Tennessee game. We'll show you how to slow them down. No, you play them this week, don't you? Do you play Tennessee this week? Answer me. Watch out for mustard bottles. Watch out for mustard bottles. I don't even know where the game's at Kentucky, isn't it? I don't know. I don't even know who you play this week. What am I even doing? Oh, yeah. Making fun of Penn State. Penn State's season was already over because, defying all logic and reason, they lost to Illinois 2 weeks ago. But had a big game this past Saturday, the primetime game on ABC. Penn State at Ohio State. Ohio State comes out on top. Ohio State didn't dominate the game. It was a competitive game late into the game, 33-24. I thought Penn State played pretty good. Ohio State played a little bit better, is what it was. And, home game for Ohio State, that helps, obviously. And honestly, Ohio State just has better players. Ohio State's got better players. I don't think Penn State is terrible. I don't think James Franklin is terrible, although he's way too inconsistent. Ohio State just had better players, is what it was. So we'll see what happens with Penn State the rest of the way. They still have to play Michigan and Michigan State. What is Big Ten East is just a mess. A mess. It ain't getting no easier for these teams. I think I said a couple of weeks ago, I don't know if anybody can make it the rest of the way without losing at least one game, Ohio State included. Ohio State's the team with the best chance to go the rest of the way without losing. But, man, all these teams still playing each other. I mean, some of these teams are going to get knocked off. Michigan State's undefeated. That's great. You still got to play Penn State and Ohio State. I mean, it's going to be hard even for Ohio State. Ohio State still got to play Michigan and Michigan State. And then a Big Ten title game if they make it that far. So, I mean, it's going to be tough. I tell you this, anybody that wins the Big Ten with one loss or less in the case of Michigan State definitely deserves a playoff spot and probably either a 1 or 2 seed because that Eastern Division is absolutely brutal this year. No doubt about it. No doubt about it. What are we even doing? But Penn State, sorry, don't know what to tell you. You're being punished for making excuses for Joe Paterno still. I mean, it's just what's happening. You guys covered up and made excuses for that. Well, let's save this one. Let's save this one. What is this now? What's going on here? How'd you lose again? Why is this team making a habit of losing now? I thought we were told Iowa was a good team. Was Iowa really ranked number 2? Like 3 weeks ago? I think they were. But not now. Got smoked by Wisconsin. Yeah, Iowa played so bad, it made Wisconsin look like they had a good offense, which they don't. Now, if you watched the Iowa games the first month of the season, it was pretty clear that they weren't going to finish ranked number 2. Their defense was playing really good and creating a ton of turnovers. Their offense was absolutely horrible. I mean, like setting college football back 50 years level of horrible. It was bad. But I didn't think they'd get smoked like this against Wisconsin. I think I did pick Wisconsin because the game was at Wisconsin. But I didn't see a score like this come. Was it 27-7 or whatever it was? I think I wrote it down. And I got my copious notes here. I have to. I watch all the games and make the notes so that you don't have to. Yeah, 27-7. Lost on the road at Wisconsin. So, again, season been over for a while, but just humiliating. And hard to believe Iowa was ever ranked number 2, but somehow they were. You know who wasn't ranked number 2? These idiot losers here. Yeah, these idiot losers. Damn. Ain't got no room on the SEC shelf? What the hell going on? God dang it. I'm going to have to make room. You know what it is? This damn mustard bottle is taking up valuable real estate on the SEC shelf. There you go, Gators. Get comfortable over there. Be a while before you ever see the top 10 shelf again. Well, you got absolutely destroyed Florida by my Georgia Bulldogs 34-7. And it happened in about a 2-minute stretch at the end of the second quarter, didn't it? Yeah, it did. It sure is nice to be able to have your defense outscore your opponent. It sure does take a lot of pressure off Georgia's offense. And it turns out we needed that help this past Saturday because offensively, Georgia played its worst game of the year. No doubt about it. Stats have been a little like doo-doo. I know at least one person that wasn't surprised by that. And he's on team asshole and wears wanted glasses. But I digress. We won 34-7. That 2-minute period. I mean, it's really pointless to talk about anything in that game other than that 2-minute stretch in the second quarter where Florida had 3 turnovers and Georgia scored on all of them. One was a pick 6. The other one, we got the ball on the 11-yard line, scored on the first play. The other one, we got the ball, I forget where, and scored in, I think, 2 plays. So the game was over right then. Georgia's defense outscored Florida. Florida did manage to get a garbage touchdown at the end of the game, which I guess was a moral victory for Florida because they kept saying in the fourth quarter of that game when Florida was sitting on the goose egg that Florida had not been shut out in over 400 games. You have to go back to some point in the 80s to find the last time the Florida Gators were shut out. And it almost happened Saturday. But you get a touchdown late, so congratulations on that. You only lost by 27 points. Of course, the spread was 14. But I don't know anything about that, though. So they started Anthony Richardson. That's what the Florida fans wanted. That's what they got. It turns out, actually, you know what? I don't even know. Are the Florida fans mad at Anthony Richardson for the way he played? He played terrible. 3 turnovers. He played terrible. I don't think you should be mad at Anthony. You should be mad at Dan. You should be mad at yourselves. You never should have. The idea that Anthony Richardson should get the first start of his career against Georgia was dumb. And it was dumb for the fans to want that. And it was even dumber for Dan Mullen to give in and do it. He might be ruined now like the ukulele. Look at the ukulele. This guy can't complete a pass to Clemson quarterback. He can't complete a pass now. He goes to bed at night. He's got Jordan Davis nightmares. This could be the case for Anthony Richardson going forward. He could have ruined him there, playing him there. And then he got hurt, and I hope he's okay, by the way. Dan Mullen was asked about it yesterday, and he didn't want to answer it. Of course, he didn't want to answer anything. His clown level is through the roof, Dan Mullen. The guy's choking on his own clown shoes. It's hilarious. It's hilarious. Somebody asked me, how come Dan Mullen didn't dress up as a clown for Halloween? I said, because he is a clown 365 days a year. In fact, he's a clown every other day of the year except Halloween. They said, well, what do you mean? I said, well, on Halloween, he dresses up as a football coach. Pretends to be one. He's actually a clown. So, yeah. I would be extremely worried if I was a Florida fan. Not about this season. The season's over. Not even about Dan Mullen's future. Whatever happens to Dan Mullen is going to happen. Whether he quits, gets fired, comes back, fires his entire staff and starts over, particularly with Todd Grantham. Whatever's going to happen there is going to happen. Here's what you need to be worried and concerned about, in my opinion, whether you keep Dan Mullen or not. When Dan Mullen took over the job at Florida, Florida State and Miami were terrible. Florida, wherever you rank Florida in the hierarchy of college football in 2018 or 2019, it was 2018, when Dan Mullen got there. Wherever you rank him, or wherever you ranked Florida, Florida State and Miami were below that. Today, Florida State and Miami are above Florida. And that's the bigger problem, in my opinion. Florida had an opportunity when they brought Dan Mullen in to capitalize on things in the state of Florida during a time when Florida State and Miami were not just bad, but honestly terrible. They were doing coaching changes every couple of years. They were having terrible seasons. You didn't capitalize. Not only did you not capitalize on that, you've now let them, in my opinion, pass you. Florida State in particular is out recruiting you. Florida State might beat you at the end of this year. And if that happens, that is a bad sign to me. That's a bad sign to me. You can't put yourself in a position where you're the third best program in the state, especially if you're going to keep Dan Mullen. Because Dan Mullen can't recruit you out of that hole. He can't. He can't recruit you out of that hole. If you lose to Florida State this year, if Miami has figured something out with this Van Dyke and wins a couple more games at the end of this season, if Florida State and or Miami finish with a better record than Florida, right now Florida's got 4 losses. They shouldn't lose another game. They should now go 8-4. Is it 4 losses? Yeah, Alabama, Kentucky, LSU, and Georgia. They should go 8-4. If they lose another game, though, they're sitting on 7-5. If you lose to Florida State, you're 7-5. God forbid you lose this weekend to Columbia. If you lose this weekend in Columbia, you're looking at possibly a 5-7 season, because that's going to be a sign that the team has given up. If you can't beat South Carolina, that's a dead giveaway that this team has given up. And that's bad as it relates to the future for the Florida Gators, because like I said, Florida State and Miami are looking better. Florida is looking worse. And that's got to be the most concerning thing, I think, if you're a Florida fan. But there you go. All those teams, your season is over. For some of you, it's been over for quite some time. Who won and looked good? Well, Georgia. We already talked about that. They beat Florida 34-7. How about Oklahoma? Listen, if you're going to cry and complain, and I do, about Oklahoma struggling to these terrible teams, barely beating them, Tulane, Kansas, the list goes on and on, Texas, the list just goes on and on, then you got to give them credit when they do what they're supposed to do. And this past weekend, they did what they were supposed to do. They played a bad Texas Tech team, and they beat them 52-21. Not a great performance defensively, but this is Oklahoma we're talking about here. But it came out and put half 100 up in a conference game against Texas Tech. Caleb Williams had, 5 or 6 touchdowns? More on him in a second when we get to the Heisman talk. Ohio State, good win. They didn't blow them out. Didn't even cover the spread. Didn't even come close to covering the spread. The spread was 18 or 19. Didn't even come close to covering the spread, but beat them 33-24. And again, I think Penn State's a pretty good team. Not great, but pretty good. So that's a good win. Oregon, same as Oklahoma. They finally blew somebody out. We've been wanting to see it. They finally did it. 52-29 against Colorado. Auburn, a good win against Ole Miss. This was a hard game to pick for me. I picked Auburn, but it was easy to see a way for Ole Miss to win this game if that offense would have got going, right? But it didn't. Credit to Auburn's defense there. If Auburn beats Texas A&M, it's going to be a wild Iron Bowl in Auburn at the end of the year. Wild. Wake Forest, again, 45-7 to Duke. It'll be interesting to see where the committee puts Wake Forest, isn't it? Yeah, it is. Oklahoma State, 55-3 over Kansas. Good Lord. Miami beat Pitt. Pitt, your season's over, but I don't have a Pitt helmet. So I'm not going to waste time talking about you. If you're a Pitt fan, send me a Pitt helmet. Houston, 44-37 over undefeated SMU. That conference, Cincinnati's in that conference too with Houston and SMU. So now you got Houston and SMU, each with one loss. Cincinnati with no losses. Cincinnati plays SMU in the regular season coming up in a couple of weeks. And then they're going to have to play either Houston or SMU in the conference championship game. Those are the toughest games left for Cincinnati. So in my opinion, they're probably going undefeated. It's going to come down to what the playoff committee thinks about them, how bad they beat those teams, and obviously what happens in the other conferences, right? Same things we say every week. Cincinnati needs Alabama to lose. That way Alabama gets knocked out of the playoffs, whether that's a loss in the Iron Bowl or whether it's a loss in the SEC championship game. Cincinnati needs Alabama to lose. They probably need either Oklahoma or Oregon to lose a game too, in my opinion, to get in. One of those two teams is going to have to lose to knock themselves out. But we'll see. I still think Cincinnati probably goes 13-0. There you go. Bad wins. So speaking of Cincinnati, another bad win, 2 in a row, 31-12 over Tulane. But this game was close into the fourth quarter. Now, they didn't struggle nearly as bad as Oklahoma did. That's a fact. Cincinnati didn't struggle nearly as bad as Oklahoma did against Tulane. Tulane's a one-win team, by the way. But Cincinnati can't do this. See, here's the thing. Oklahoma can win every game by 1 point. If they're 13-0, they're getting in the playoff, whether we like it or not. Cincinnati can't do that. Cincinnati's got to win these games by 30 and 40 points, and for 2 weeks in a row now, they haven't done it. They better turn it on the last month of the season and start impressing this playoff committee. Here's your best teams, and then we'll do the Heisman. I broke up the best teams this week into a couple of different tiers. In my opinion, I think Georgia is clearly the best team. And what I mean by that is there's no argument to be made for anybody other than Georgia to be ranked 1 right now at this point in the season. So I've got them right now in a tier by themselves, okay? In the next tier, I've got Ohio State and Alabama. Now, this isn't where I think teams should be ranked, by the way. When I put my ranking out later, it's not going to reflect what's here. These are just the teams I think are playing the best football today, not where I think they'll be ranked in a playoff poll or where I will have them in my ranking. But I think Bama and Ohio State are in a tier, the next tier after Georgia. And then after that, you've got a group of teams that are kind of clumped up, in my opinion. Cincinnati, Oklahoma, Michigan, Michigan State, Oregon, and Notre Dame. That's what it is. Okay, Heisman Trophy. For the first time this season, I think there's a clear front-runner and favorite for the Heisman Trophy, and it's Kenneth Walker. Now, we got a month of football to go, and Heismans are usually won in the month of November, not the last weekend of October. But what Kenneth Walker did this last weekend was absolutely amazing, and that was the most watched game of the year on Fox. So there was a lot of eyeballs on it. It was a noon game, so East Coast people got to watch it. Central Time people got to watch. Everyone watched. And Kenneth Walker absolutely went off. He scored every touchdown Michigan State scored. Every one of them. All 5 touchdowns were scored by they won 37-33. All 5 touchdowns were Kenneth Walker. 200 yards rushing. He averaged over 9 yards per carry. So this isn't a thing where he's running the ball 60 times a game for 3 yards a carry and getting 180. No. 9 yards per carry. He's the clear Heisman frontrunner and favorite right now today. Again, it doesn't mean he'll win it. You got to have games like that, in my opinion, in November. Now, he's got some chances. He's going to have a game with Ohio State. He's going to have a game with Penn State. He does to Ohio State and Penn State what he did to Michigan State. He's your runaway Heisman winner, in my opinion. Who else is on the Heisman list? Kenneth Walker, I've got moving up the Heisman list. Bryce Young staying the same. They were off this past week, so whatever you thought about Bryce Young 2 weeks ago, you should still think about him now. They were off. Matt Corral, I've got him falling. So far, he's had his 2 worst games against the 2 best teams that he's played. That is not a recipe for winning the Heisman. You win the Heisman by having your best games against your best teams. He didn't look good against Bama. He didn't look great against Auburn. It is what it is. They only scored 20 points in that game. I've got him sliding down, but still on the Heisman list. Jordan Davis is moving up the Heisman list. There are a lot of people, Heisman voters, by the way, that are all over Twitter, the radio, satellite radio, these talking heads on TV, actual Heisman voters that are saying they're going to put Jordan Davis on their Heisman ballot. Again, saying that in October and actually doing it at the end of November and beginning of December, 2 different things. But I've got Jordan Davis moving up the Heisman list. Cody Pickett falling down. First of all, I was skeptical of the Pickett thing to start with a loss on your resume to Western Michigan. But he was playing good, broke some ACC records, got over the hump and beat Clemson. I think he's still on the Heisman list, but sliding down after a loss to Miami this week. And I got C.J. Stroud moving up the Heisman list. Started out a little slow for CJ. First-year starter, had never even thrown a pass in college, but he's been putting up some crazy numbers the last couple of weeks. So I've got him moving up the Heisman list. Not even on my Heisman list, nor will he ever be, is Caleb Williams. I wish we could shut this shit down right now. You can't sit on the bench until week 5 or 6 of the season and come in and expect to win the Heisman. I think that's ridiculous. I think that is absolutely ridiculous. Is he a great player? Is he fun to watch? Yes. So is every other Oklahoma quarterback for the last 10 years, okay? We get it. You can't play half the season and come at me with the Heisman talk. I ain't trying to hear it. It's nothing against Oklahoma or Caleb Williams. He's amazing. Anybody in America would be happy to have him as their quarterback. And next year, he'll probably be the Heisman favorite. But I'm tired of hearing this Caleb Williams Heisman shit. The guy's played half the season. He ain't getting Uncle Lou's vote.